We're actually going to be talking about how to scale your high ticket offer financing business. This is a two-part episode. One part of it is going to be Eric's perspective. Other part's going to be my perspective. The reason why these two perspectives are important is because I got high ticket offer financing to a certain space, and I knew that I needed Eric's skill set in order to take it to the next level. Eric has a closing company named 1% Closers, and he just has a great system. One that I want you guys to really understand and understand his story and how he got to where he is today, and also what his perspective is, being somebody that has worked with a lot of high ticket offer consultants.
I was just a kid who dropped out of college, just trying to figure out my way.
Remember when we were talking about it and you sold me on our own product? I was like, okay, this guy is serious about what it is that he does.
I'm not a sales guy. I'm an entrepreneur.
And that's because you've been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So if you would have removed that experience, maybe we wouldn't even be here right now.
Yeah.
Let's go. Listen, those hand claps never get old. Today, it's King Edwards and my main man, Eric Alvarez, for episode 3 of the High Ticket Offer Financing Podcast. Today, we have an incredibly informative podcast for you. We're actually going to be talking about how to scale your high ticket offer financing business. Now, I'm gonna set, because the first part of this is a 2-part episode. One part of it is going to be Eric's perspective, okay, and the other part's going to be my perspective. The reason why these two perspectives are important is because those two perspectives are not only what has created high ticket offer financing and what it is today, but I got high ticket offer financing to a certain space, and I knew that I needed Eric's skill set in order to take it to the next level. Eric has a closing company named 1% Closers, and he just has a great system. One that I want you guys to really understand and understand his story and how he got to where he is today, and also what his perspective is, being somebody that has worked with a lot of high ticket offer consultants. What is your perspective on how a consultant can properly scale their business? And before we get into this, I just want to say that the reason why this is important is because if you listen to this episode right and you pay attention to what we're saying and you implement it, you'll be in a space where you can actually just come right into highticketofferfinancing.com and immediately begin achieving results. And that's the goal. So pay attention, take some notes, and let's get right into it. So Eric, what's your story, man? How did you get here? Obviously, I know entrepreneurship is a road of peaks and valleys. So what's your story? How'd you get here? And then we can just get right into it. Like, what's your thought process on scales, etc.?
Yeah, so I'll keep it pretty brief because I think we want to touch on it in a past episode.
We actually never did.
Never had?
No, we spoke about it one-on-one, but we never talked about it in an episode.
Got it. All right, cool. So I'll keep it as high level as possible. But basically, I went to school to Florida State University, first class major entrepreneurship, ended up dropping out after my first semester. Basically just realized that I was learning more about business online from mentors and books that I was reading than I was from the teachers because they couldn't teach me anything. So dropped out. First thing I did was I went to a Jason Capital event, who was one of the marketers and people I was learning from online. Went to his event in Newport Beach, California from Florida. So I flew out there solo, and the event opened my eyes to the online space, what's out there, etc. Now, there was a speaker who was there. The guy's name was Dan Locke. So Dan Locke comes as one of the speakers, and I never heard of the guy before. And he was basically teaching about this concept of high ticket closing. I never heard of this prior to then. So anyways, he sells me from stage. His program is $2,500. I don't have the money to do it, but I'm sold. So I call my dad up and I basically convince him. I sell him and I close him to basically front me the money, and I pay him back.
That was actually your first close.
My first close.
Nice.
Yeah. In fact, actually, it goes a little further back because in college, there was a company called Campus Protein, and basically you can sell like supplements. So you'd be like a college student for college students, and you'd be like a sales rep for them, and you would sell supplements with your link, and you get paid a commission. They actually had a Black Friday, like a Black Friday special going on, and I just joined them within like 2 weeks prior to that. So that was my first experience actually with sales, and I ended up being the very top rep in my entire like region or my part of the country, or I was one of the top people, beating out people that had been there for years. So that's actually my first closes. But then I
Now,
made barely
I
any
do
money.
I do want to mention this because I think that it's very important. Like, obviously, you've grown from a sales perspective since the very beginning. But when I met you, your sales ability was like, it was literally the moment we spoke on the phone and you were explaining how our offer worked. Remember when we were talking about it and you sold me on our own product? I was like, okay, this guy is serious about what it is that he does. Obviously, you had raw sales skills, but in that Dan Locke event, you purchased a course from him. So how did that elevate your sales ability?
Um, Here's the thing: I didn't really go through it all the way because I was just a kid who dropped out of college, just trying to figure out my way, and I wasn't fully like I didn't know what direction I wanted to take. So just I knew it sounded good, and I was a kid. I was feeling. When they do a sell by stage, they stir a lot of emotions within you. So I felt the emotions of like, oh, I need to do this if I want to make money, kind of thing. But I didn't know anything more than that. I just knew how I felt. So it actually goes back to a principle of sales that people buy based on emotion, and they rationalize after with logic. So that was, yeah, that was what I felt. But basically, I got some base solid information from it that probably set a certain stage for me. But I can't say like, yeah, I went through it diligently from beginning all the way to end, and I went and I applied right away because I was focused on building my fitness brand online already, and I just didn't have any leads to even close or use it on. So if you have no leads, you got no one to close, so you can't even
You
practice
can't even
closing
practice, right?
unless you go work with a company as a closer, which is what if I can go back in time, I would have just done that because it would have been a much faster path to get to where I am now and just making money and
But you know
learning.
what? But it's easy. It's good that we can go back and think from that perspective. But in reality, as somebody who is working with you, I can say that your abilities are beyond just closing. Like, you have the ability to build a business.
I'm not a sales guy. I'm an
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
And
Like, I've been there
that's
since day one.
because you've been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So if you would have removed that experience, then maybe we wouldn't even be here right now.
Yeah, it would definitely be different because I wouldn't have the perspective of what it is to actually run and create a business from the ground up. So yeah, kind of get back to the story though. So I was building my fitness brand, and then it was called Booty God, and I basically cut it around December of 2019, where I was doing fitness coaching, meal plans, the whole nine, but focused on women growing their butt, getting a flat stomach, confidence, all that stuff, right? So I cut it because I didn't feel in alignment with it anymore, and I wasn't making the kind of money that I needed to make at the time. And I realized I have to focus on the money making skill sets in terms of getting leads, closing deals, because I was doing pretty good with branding, I was doing pretty good with content, but I was playing the Instagram game, and my account as well that I was building it on was a little bit compromised. My reach was a little bit messed up because it's an account I use like as a joke account back in high school, and I bought a bunch of fake followers in like 2013, where you can buy it on like an app for like $2. You know what I mean? So I think that compromised the account from the beginning, but I was already doing it. So I grew to like 15,000 followers organically on that. But I wasn't converting them, and I didn't have the monetization skill sets. So, anyways, pause that for those two reasons: not making the right money, and two, I just didn't feel in alignment with the results I'd get. Like, I'd get great results, but I wasn't that excited about it. So I went and I did
And
affiliate.
that was a low ticket offer.
That was a primarily low ticket offer. Yeah, I wasn't even introduced or even had the belief system for myself to offer high ticket, or I had no idea how I'd go about that, at least in that space at that time. So I focused on affiliate marketing for a few months, and I was basically selling another person's program. And actually, my mentor at the time, who I paid to learn this from, he had leads for his business and he needed someone to close those deals. So I had the opportunity to sell. Now I was not good. I closed 0 out of the first 20 leads that I had. But then I actually went back and I realized that majority of those leads were just never closable. So it actually wasn't as bad as I thought when I actually had a little more perspective from being later on in the game. I was like, oh, there are leads that actually just logistically just can't move forward. Oh, maybe I'm not as bad as I thought. But I was not like this naturally gifted thing. In fact, even socially, like when I was in high school or even, earlier than that, I had a lot of social anxiety. I was a very shy kid, especially when I was younger. So, but I knew I had the possibility, but I always was very into like influence and psychology and persuasion and just how all that worked. It was all very fascinating to me. So I started to learn that. And then as time went on and I implemented and applied and talked to more people and was doing business, naturally sales is a part of that. So anyways, I do some affiliate marketing during that time. I get some experience. I'm going through other programs. I'm learning, DM closing and how that works for other programs I invested into. And then I had an opportunity in March of 2020 to partner with a big fitness influencer that had over 2 million followers and basically help them monetize their page. Basically, I was talking with them and I was introduced to them at a mutual meeting. And they had some ebook. I was asking how much they made off it. They said they made like $2,000 a month on their ebook. And I was like, oh, that's it. You don't have this program. You don't have, people going to your DMs and stories to drive them there. Where they message you a keyword and then you ask them a few questions and you sell them, blah, blah, blah. And then upsells, whatever. And they're like, no, but let's work. Like, all right, cool. So we did a 50-50 partnership. So we started right when the pandemic hit, and basically I gave them everything that I did product-wise from Booty God, but under their face and their brand. And then I took the skill sets I acquired in that interim time that I was learning prior to then, but I also didn't have enough leads to really get the skill sets and acquire the skills that I needed because I was starting everything from myself from zero. So if you don't have any leads to work, you're not going to learn sales. You have to have leads to sell. So that provided me the experience, and I mean, by the third month, we were doing $50,000 a month. I mean, that was a low ticket offer. We started at like a $27 30-day booty challenge. Then we gradually increased that pricing to $67 one time, but it was every single month. And then a $97 meal plan upsell in the back, and then a $500 like little group coaching kind of thing for like a VIP group. So low ticket stuff. And that was all through the DMs, but that was my first introduction to making money online. Didn't know about contracts or how to have strong contracts. And I didn't really understand like how people operate in business. My first partnership, my first time doing something outside of just my own business. And they basically just like cut me out of the deal and then took my stuff, but it is what it is. And I had a period of that time where I'm like, all right, I have to keep acquiring skill sets. So I had to, go through the process. I just fast forward until like 2021, mid 2021 into 2022. I had an opportunity to basically become the VP of sales for a data/tech company. And that's where I really started to learn not just sales skill sets, but I learned more about systems and processes and having a team. So through that process, I mean, I've sold everyone from like B2B, B2C, B2B2C. I've sold low ticket all the way to, Fortune 500 companies in that experience. In fact, I was on a call closing Dan Locke and his organization.
Full circle.
Full circle.
So I have a question for you, right? I want to know, because you've had all of these experiences working B2B, B2C, for those of you that don't know, everybody here should know, but if you don't know, B2B means business to business, B2C means business to customer. Two businesses doing business between each other, B2B, a business doing business with a customer, B2C. All right. Those are the two different ways that you can interact in business with the general public. What are some of the success principles? Because obviously you've had a skill set even before you had that experience. You went in with the low ticket offer and you analyzed the things that they were doing wrong. You gained a 50-50 partnership from analyzing what went wrong and saying, we can correct these things. So that's a low ticket offer. And then on the high ticket side, you're going from a B2B standpoint, which I'm assuming has more high ticket volume there. So what are some of the things that you see that businesses can do that they're not doing that can help them become more successful at scaling their high ticket offer?
Yeah, so I always say there's three things that I focus on. It's sales, systems, and team, right? So whatever domain you're in, whether it's sales, operations, fulfillment, marketing, or just operating the business, being the business owner, the two things that still apply are systems and team. So I always come back to the concept of leverage. Basically, how can I get more outputs for the same or less inputs? Because we all have the same time in the day. The only difference between Jeff Bezos and the average person is that he has more leverage. He has a massive company, he has a massive amount of money behind him, X, Y, and Z, and he worked to develop and build all that. But he's only got there because he thought the right way from the beginning and worked towards it. Most people just work a job and they have zero leverage at all. So that's the first thing. It comes down to
They are the leverage.
exactly.
They are someone else's leverage.
Correct. They are the leverage for somebody else.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a business is really just about three things: about systems, it's about having a team, and it's about empowering your team. So basically, having systems is having processes, standard operating procedures. So if you're the sole owner of your business and you're wearing all the hats right now, you need to document every single step of what you do. Like, how do you get a lead? Document that process. Step one, you go here. Step two, you do this. Step three, boom, boom, boom. You have to lay it out very, very clearly, step by step. And then you have to have a short video that shows it in action and explains the process behind it. So that's a standard operating procedure, an SOP. That's literally all of businesses. It's just it's standard operating procedures, and a bunch of processes mixed together are what creates a system. So a business is a series of systems. Now you have to have people to operate those systems, and that's where it becomes a full-on business instead of just a practice or a hustle. Because if you're doing everything yourself, that's not a real business.
That's a hustle.
It's a hustle. So that's where you have to hire employees and have systems and processes on how to get employees, how to vet them, how to interview them, how to integrate them, how to train them and ramp them up so that once they are working those systems, they can operate it up to the certain standard, which is what you call a KPI, key performance indicator. Basically, you have certain numbers that are metrics that will dictate performance and tell you if you're doing good, if you're doing bad. If you're below KPIs, you're below standard. Either you got to improve or you got to get replaced.
So what does below KPI mean for those people that are not aware of the name KPI, what it means in general? Like, what does below KPI mean?
Yeah, KPI is key performance indicator. So basically, you have different metrics in a business because essentially the language of business is numbers. It is data, right? So let's say, for example, you have a 10% close rate and you know you need to have 10 leads come through your funnel. Out of those, let's say 20% close rate, 5 book and show to your call, and then 20% close rate, 1 out of 5 will convert. Okay, cool. So for every 10 leads that our business gets, that's one sale. Let's say one sale equals $10,000. For every 10 leads, we're going to make $10,000, right? So now if you know all your metrics at each step of that business, you can now reverse engineer what needs to happen. So KPIs are certain metrics in that process that need to be hit. Like, these are our minimum KPIs, right? So if you're operating below KPI, you're operating below the standard of the business of where it needs to be. Maybe you're closing at 10% instead of 20%. So now you need 20 leads instead of 10 to hit those same numbers. That's double the money on the front end. Let's say you spend $5,000 to close a $10,000 deal. Well, if you have to do 20 leads to close a $10,000 deal, 10 and 10, that's not going to work. You're just going to break even. So basically, from a high level, that's what KPIs are. And if you're not hitting your KPIs or the metrics that you need to hit, then you either got to get trained up. You have to identify what is the bottleneck that's happening in the business. So is it a platform issue? Is it a process issue? Or is it a person issue, right? So platform would be, is it the software we're using? Is there something that it's not providing us their data that we're not seeing from it? Is there an issue with it? Oh, we can't contact leads that are from, this state or this country or whatever it is, right? So is it the platform that's holding you back? Is it the process, right? Does the process just need to be improved and it's not a good enough process? So you look at that and identify which part of that's in by looking at the data and the numbers, which is where the skill set and the finesse comes behind it, the expertise, the knowledge of identifying the right issues and then how to fix that. Or number three, is the platform good? Is the process good? But is the person the wrong person in the wrong seat? Because you have to have the right people in the right seat. Someone can be great at X, Y, and Z, but if you put them in B, well, they're not good at B. They're good at X, Y, and Z only, right? So you have to find person who's good at B and put them in B, and someone who's good at X, Y, and Z and put them in those places.
You know what's so interesting, just to even chime in on what you're saying? That is, for me, was such a game changer in business, is understanding two very important concepts. And then I want you to continue, but not doing business with your friends unless they're qualified.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times we get into business and we want to, oh, I'm going to do this. I remember I was talking to this young lady a few years ago, and she was telling me that she was going to start a trucking business with her friend, and she was going to put up 50,000 to start a trucking business with her friend. And I said, has your friend ever done a trucking business? No. Have you ever done a trucking business? No. Okay, so that sounds like a recipe for disaster. A lot of times people won't understand that, like, you're not going to hire a ballerina to do video work. You're going to hire a videographer, but that goes throughout every aspect of your company. Like, there's individuals that are great at sales. There's individuals that are great at systems. There's individuals that are great at video editing, software development, right? Marketing, social media marketing, advertising. So those seats that you're talking about will be understood in the SOPs, right? The standard operating procedures, as you're going through the process that you said of understanding and documenting every single process within your business. You're going to see the different seats that need to be filled. And in those seats that need to be filled, there are actual professional personnel for each one of these seats that you can hire to sit in those seats and operate your company more effectively. I like that. So yeah, go ahead, continue on.
Yeah, I mean, on your point, like, I made that mistake. I had a sales rep that I really liked personally, I really believed in, but he was not performing, and I just gave him way too much margin for error, and it cost everybody. So I had to learn from that mistake too. But yeah, if you're in a partner with someone, I think that's a good quick point. When you're picking a partner or someone to work with, you want to find someone that has complementary skill sets to you, not just because you like them or they're your friend. What do they bring to the table? This is a business, not a charity.
Correct.
And do they have complementary skills to you? Because I've had people like, yo, I want to partner with you, but I look at the table and it's like, you bring the same thing I bring to the table. You're good at sales also. So, like, what do you bring that I don't have? It doesn't make sense for us to partner because what? We're both going to work in the same thing.
Exactly.
And then we're both going to be mediocre at X, Y, and Z because that's outside of our expertise in our domain. And another thing that I also learned too is that when you're playing higher levels of the game, you want to be more specialized with your skill, but understand how the whole thing operates. So, for example, if you're going to work with a really big team that's doing really big stuff, they're going to get the best of the best at each thing. The best of the best at sales, the best of the best at marketing, the best of the best at product. Not one person who's pretty good at all of them. They're going to get the best for each individual seat because the biggest people know that to go far in business, you have to have businesses built off people. You have to have the right people in the right seats and have the right people because an A player is infinitely more valuable than multiple B players because they're going to outperform all of them and be more efficient because the more people you have on your team, well, there's more costs involved, there's more operational load involved in regards to managing all these different people. And for someone who's new as well, I'm kind of giving different points right now, but someone who's also new to building a team, you have to realize that you're not going to get it right on the first shot. Like, just because you found someone that seems like they're a good fit for the role, you can't just stop there because of what if they start slacking. So you have to also be consistently recruiting and hiring and testing new people. And in fact, you might want to bring on a few different people at the same time and then test them to see who's going to be the best performer. Because naturally, let's say you bring on 3 different sales reps to a team. Let's say 1 or 2 out of those 3 are actually going to be up to KPI and hit the numbers you want. So the last thing you want to do is bring one person, potentially they're the one that does not hit KPI, and then to start all the way from 0 again and waste all that time, because there's also a ramp up period. There's a learning period. People aren't just like robots and they're going to get in there and get it right on day 1. They're going to mess up. They're going to make mistakes. So actually, you have to have a very big paradigm shift in business and move away from I have to do everything me, and how do I do it, but move towards a place where, actually, your book title this, who, not how. So
who can do this, not how does it have to be done.
Exactly. And if you bring in the right people, they should be the ones telling you what to do instead of you telling them what to do.
I will say this, that literally what you said is so, like, as a raw entrepreneur, because you know, a lot of these things you pick up along the way, because it's not like you're going to school and they're teaching you that you need to hire professionals that do certain things. You would think that that is a logical disposition to have, but in reality, it's not. Like, people are going to grab whatever personnel they have that's closest to them. One way that you can really understand if somebody's going to be a good fit for the role is exactly what you said. Their ability to be able to teach you a better, more effective way to do exactly what it is that they're there to do. Because you as the business owner might have an overarching understanding of how, if your business is relatively successful to any level, like you're making close to 100,000 or over 100,000 a year, then you've become relatively decent at a multitude of different things within your business if you don't have a team. But when you start bringing people in, when you're bringing in personnel, a great way to vet them is to get them to teach you how to do their part of the business more effective, how you can do your part of the business more effectively. If they can teach you how to do that role that you brought them in to do more effectively, then you know you have a winner, right? That's something that I've certainly realized. And when I've had to do the opposite, where I've had to sit there and teach the person everything about what it is that they're doing, that has never turned out well. That means that person is in the wrong seat. I like that perspective. So yeah, continue on.
Yeah, I mean, think of it like this. You need to be Phil Jackson, not Kobe.
Right.
You become, as the business owner, the coach of the people beneath you. Now, depending on how big that business is, depends who you're coaching, right? First, maybe you're coaching the people, you're doing everything yourself, and then you bring on your first sales reps, you bring on your first like customer support person, X, Y, and Z. Okay, now you're coaching them. But then you keep growing, you keep scaling, you keep growing, keep scaling. You have so many people that now you need managers beneath you to own each domain of that business. You need a marketing manager, a sales manager, you need a head of product and fulfillment. And now those are the people that report to you, and you coach them and they coach the people beneath them, right? So it just depends how big the business is and where you're at. But then eventually you get to a point where you have a CEO in place, and now that's their job, and you just sit back, and now you're not necessarily coaching them, because they should be the ones that are so good they're running everything for you, or else they're probably the wrong person. And you're just looking at the numbers. The numbers make sense. Here's the money out. Here's the money in. Here's what we have going on. Here's the projections. Boom, boom, boom. Now you're seeing like a board of advisors, right? So different levels.
So I have a question. How has AI affected this process? Because a lot of this stuff now you can automate with systems and AI and technology, right? So how has AI impacted this process of hiring individuals and also scaling? Has it made it easier? How much easier? How much personnel do you need? Do you only need managers? Do you still need a full-on team? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I believe the goal is always efficiency. So what I mean by that is, let's say you got to pay $5,000 a month for a certain position to be fulfilled in the company, and they produce, let's say, I put out like a 1, right? Just to make the concept easy. Then you can replace some AI, and the AI has 0 cost, but they can produce at a 0.8, just as an example. And if you look at the net, what's in versus what's coming out, maybe the 0.8 is more efficient, right? So the whole concept behind it is that where the AI comes in is it helps with efficiency, even if it's not as good. Maybe it is, maybe it's even better, right? Depending on the position, the use case, the person's using the AI, because that's really what it usually comes down to. Depending again on what the AI is and where it's at in its development. But essentially, AI just enhances systems, processes. It can replace people. It could potentially help them make faster decisions. So if I need to, go through a contract, for example, that I'm gonna send to all my clients, I can put into the new Chat GPT that's more advanced and say, hey, go through this and find me all the potential friction points or all the potential points in this contract that clients might have concerns about. Instead of me going through on my own, I can get different intel, different perspectives.
So I have a question, right? So what do you think are the most integral role, the most important roles that need to be filled in a high ticket business? Like maybe roles that you see, just roles that need to be, like every single business owner in a high ticket offer business needs to have these roles fulfilled filled.
Yeah, the answer depends on where they're at in their stage and also what is their specific zone of genius. Because some people are going to be more of the marketing promotion type, others might be more of like the operations management type, right? So it just kind of depends where you're at and where you want to play. The way I think about it is this though: no matter what position you're doing, you need to create those SOPs around it. Once you have SOPs around it, now you have the foundation to where now you're in position to actually delegate or automate this. So the question you ask yourself is, what can I delegate, what can I automate, and what can I eliminate as well? Because the fastest way to make a Ferrari go faster is to take out what's in the trunk. There might be things you're doing in your business that's not serving you that you can just eliminate and cut off. There might be things in your business you can do that you can just automate, leveraging technology nowadays. For example, if you want to reach out to your entire email list, you can use Go High Level. You can set up a 7-day campaign. You can use ChatGPT to write it, and then you put it in there, and it'll drip it out to them over the next 7 days. Instead of you having to manually sit there and message and email each person one at a time. Let's say you send 100 in a day in one shot.
Go high level. We're gonna give you one thing that I will say is go high level is probably, and this is, they didn't even pay for this, but we have to be honest here. Go high level is something that I believe that the business owners need to look into.
Especially if you're earlier in your journey. Once you get really advanced, there's more specialized things, but it gets way more complex. Like for the average person, it's an all-in-one platform, has everything that they're gonna need. They definitely need it. Um, but yeah, and then the last piece is what can you delegate to your team? So having the right people, putting them in the right seats.
So is there anything else that you want to give to them before we wrap on this part one?
Yeah, the last thing I would say is that scaling a business is a series of identifying constraints to the next level of growth. So identifying what's the bottleneck and then placing and testing solutions to fix that bottleneck. But once you fix that bottleneck, there's always going to be another bottleneck to get to the next level. So it's just a game of solving problems. It's literally the entire game of business.
I love it, bro. I love it. Good stuff.